Hello and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 91. Chris, can you tell me the name of one celebrity who was either birthed or died in the year 1991?
Oh, I don't know, but they would be like, what, 19 now, I guess? Birthed or died? Nope.
They'd be 19
Weren't they?
if they were born in 1991.
Oh, crap. 29? Math is hard.
Me, Chris. I was born in 1991.
Oh.
I'm one of the celebrities, but there's more actual celebrities.
I was thinking about 19-year-olds, which I am out of touch with. So I'm out of touch with 29-year-old celebrities too, though. So, congratulations.
You did the math thing that I do, which is like all of my year calculations are based off of the year 2000.
Yeah,
so like 1990 was 10 years ago, which it's not. It was like 30, 31, 32 years ago.
Yeah.
Here are some other celebrities that were born in 1991. Jamie Lynn Spears, the sister of Britney Spears. Ed Sheeran, who sings a bunch of songs that sound good at weddings. And then Dr. Seuss, Freddie Mercury, and Yugoslavia, the country.
The country
died
in 1991. Interesting. Probably a lot more than Yugoslavia then. That would be, the fall of a lot of those countries, or no?
I think the whole region was called Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
And then it split up. So I guess you could say all those individual countries like Croatia and
were born.
Herzegovina were born. Yeah.
Got it.
If we're taking a broad definition of the word celebrity, yes.
All right, great. Well, last week was the math intro. Now is the celebrity and country intro. Great.
That's right. And also the remember what year Christian was born intro.
That's right.
How are you? How was this last week?
I am doing all right. We were trying to come up with what I could talk about on this podcast, and I didn't do that much last week, I feel like, in terms of acornchat and other stuff. But I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And one of my so last week was the first week that I did an experiment, prompted by a conversation I had with Jonathan Zacks of having dedicated marketing days. So like splitting my time in the middle of the week, so that Monday, Wednesday, Friday was only coding, and then Tuesday, Thursday was only marketing. And I really like that in concept, and it was a bit of a drag last week because I still am not quite in the flow of like I have consistent work that feels meaningful that I can see the direct output of in marketing, but I did it. I put the time in, and if I had to like optimize the chances of business success over the next decade, I think this is a really high probability choice to be like, okay, Tuesday, Thursday, every week, I'm going to be doing something involving marketing. And so the first two palms I kind of cheated on because I followed through with your offer to pay someone $100 to buy you a Google ad, and I did it. I bought you a Google ad, and it was bad. And but yeah, that how'd that go?
Yeah, it totally worked. I paid you money, and you made me a Google ad, and I didn't have to figure it out. And afterwards, so I think you were the one who brought it up. You're like, if you do something poorly, then you'll have to go fix it and do it right. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as you made it subtract $10 from my account every day, I wanted to make it actually work. So I'm the one who went back and looked at the ad and saw how it was performing and made some changes, which this probably shouldn't have come as a surprise, but the first day, 100% of the searches had something to do with sex chat rooms. And I went, oh.
It's like live chat keywords. When I did it, by the way, I just auto-populated. It was like,
I know
would you like to show for queries of live chat? This term gets, whatever, tens of thousands of hits per day. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great.
Yes, it does. So I added a bunch of negative keywords. And the second day, it was only 98% sex chat rooms. So I added a bunch more negative keywords, and now we're down to, I think, about half and half. So I'm still adding, every day I'm adding negative keywords, and every day the impressions go down and down and down, but we're finally at some level of, relevant searches.
I can't imagine people who are searching for that sort of thing. If they saw a Google ad for acornchat, that doesn't sound like what they would be looking for.
They were clicking on it. It was costing me money.
They were clicking on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Who goes to Google to say? Oh, my gosh.
To be clear, it wasn't all like I got rid of all the explicit stuff the first day. Like that was easy. The rest of it is like misspellings of chat roulette. Like I added the term room and cam, and that got rid of like 50% of the things. I then added the word video, and that got rid of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And now it's mostly misspellings of like chat roulette and Omegle and other things. So it is now down to just getting all the misspellings, I guess. Which like Google should know, right? I should be like, I don't want any misspelling of this word. And maybe there is a switch to do that. I don't know. But yeah. So that's what I've done with ads.
I also don't quite trust them. Like they're in the business of selling ads, right? So negative keywords are you're trying to put limitations on. No, because they still would want to, like they want you to be making money. I don't know.
Yeah, like the ad has to be successful for me to keep doing it. So
right.
Yeah, but
it is in their best interest for you to be getting targeted traffic.
Yeah, I think the last few days, it was over the weekend, so traffic was way down for relevant keywords anyway. But it seems like I've gotten, now it's not flipped 98% impressions are what I want. Yeah.
So this has been running for a week, and it sounds like most of the traffic was not high intent to find a Slack integrated live chat widget that you can embed in your website. But do you have any data from that? Can you see people who, like once they leave Google Ads and they're on your website, can you see are those people signing up for an account? Do we have any data of like how that ad is doing?
Yeah, so far no, because it's all been people looking for chat rooms. So no, there's been almost no clicks for like high intent keywords. And then yesterday the last 2 days were the weekend, and so there was very low traffic for high intent keywords. So tomorrow I'll take a look at today's data, which is a Monday, and hopefully I see more high intent impressions and can actually figure out if people are signing up. No one has signed up that I could tell from a Google ad yet, but that's also not expected when they're looking for a chat room and they come up with the live chat widget. It's different.
Do you know roughly the numbers on the chat, not the chat volume, the query volume of people? Like once you put all those negative keywords in, do you know roughly how much the traffic went down?
Yeah. So yesterday, the first day I got 176 impressions for live chat rooms, which is not what I am. Yesterday there was only 11 impressions, which is way lower, but it was a Sunday. So we'll see what today is. Yeah.
Okay. 10 times. Wow. I'm reminded of the Avenue Q song, "The Internet is for Poor." Like
very much so. What
most people are using this for most of the time. Here we are trying to make business tools to get work done. Cool.
I was going to say it shows the value of the Slack App Store, because so far, I can't tell what the traffic is on there, but I've gotten a bunch of signups from there. And so that's just the high intent place that people go, whereas Google, I guess, isn't, or I haven't figured out how to make an ad targeting it yet.
Yeah. I think that's a real, this is a Slack integrated product. People who are looking for this sort of thing would be looking in Slack. I'm curious then how you might be optimizing that channel. Like, are there more keywords you can be doing? Are there partnerships you can be doing? Can you record videos? What I think you said you can't buy ads in the Slack App Store, but what are other ways that you might boost that listing?
Yeah, so you can put a video, which I don't have, and I have forgotten that until just now. So yeah, I should probably figure out how to put a video there. I imagine that converts better. So I realized a couple of things. One is, so on the Slack App Store, you can install directly from the Slack App Store, or you can visit the website first and install from the website. As far as I can tell, everyone who has installed it directly from the Slack App Store hasn't gone on to use it at all. And the only people who have used it are the people who visit the website first and then do it. So I think what that's pushing me to is, if you install it directly from the Slack App Store, I should probably put a lot more documentation and information on the sign, once you are signed in on that page, because you didn't see that documentation at all before. And my guess is that will increase conversions directly from the Slack App Store, because there's more info right on the page you can see.
If I install directly from the Slack App Store, what does that flow look like then? How would I know what the code is to embed in my website?
So it still has all that documentation, but it doesn't have. But it automatically creates an account for you, and then dumps you right into the page that says create a new widget or whatever, which I think I can actually remove a step from that. I have you create a widget with a name first. I can probably just name it, like Heroku does, like happy peaches or something, like random words. And so I can even skip that step. But what you don't see is all of the information about like the features that it has and the frequently asked questions and any of the competitive landscape stuff I've done. So I should probably have at least links to all of that stuff on the page that you land on right when you click, add my Slack instance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, especially if you're seeing that there's not as many people who are using it if they click directly from the Slack App Store. Yeah, that seems like a spot in the funnel to optimize. What I crave in this sort of thing is like I want to be able to see the funnel. I want to be able to see like this many people came in from the Slack App Store directly hitting install in the Slack App Store, and then that led to this many embeds in their website, and that led to this many customers. Versus this other way, they went to my website first and then installed it. But like if you can see that, then no matter how complicated your sales funnel gets, you'll be able to see the weak points of like, oh, something smells weird over here because, there shouldn't be anything different between these two stages of like they both installed it, but people coming directly through the Slack App Store, the funnel's way narrower. I'm losing like everybody.
That's exactly what I can see. In my dashboard, it tells me if they installed right from the Slack App Store or not, and the ones that do, they never even set it up. Whereas nearly everyone who installs it the other way at least sets it up, tries it.
I like that. Cool. Okay, what I'm hearing is continue the Google Ads experiment. We don't have enough data on that yet. This last week was just like cleaning up stuff. And then going forward, improving the ranking in the Slack App Store listing would look like recording a video. And while you're doing that, anything else you can think of that would improve it? I assume they have rankings of like top downloaded, and you can see what the listing for the top downloaded Slack app looks like if they're doing anything else, if they have like a punchier description or
so the trouble is the top downloaded is like Intercom and HubSpot and stuff, which I am competing with, but only sort of. Like they do totally different things. And so what I really want is like top competing against, or top downloaded against the people I'm actually competing with, which they don't give because they don't break it down by that, like that granular. But I can look again. I haven't looked at the Slack App Store for a while, so I should actually do that. I'm going to write that down.
What I'm specifically curious about is like, what is the listing that gets really high interactions in the Slack App Store? So maybe for Intercom, it doesn't matter because people are searching for Intercom and they're going to...
I think so.
It could be a blank listing that just says install Intercom and they would still do it. Right. But I'm curious about like, is there a specific format of video or like... Have other people figured out how to get people to install Slack apps more? Do you need a certain type of screenshot that shows a certain type of thing? Do you need, I don't know, within the context of the store, do they have some sort of an aesthetic like, oh man, if you have a clown who is narrating your thing, it gets the most views? I don't know. Right. That's what I'm hunting for. Like, what do you need? Certain keywords? Do the top listings all have a million different keywords so that people searching for a bunch of different things are still going to stumble on that listing? Going off of the traction model, like for sure, the Slack App Store is a worthwhile channel for you to be investing in. So double down on it. Like become an expert at the Slack App Store. Figure out what the things are that are converting there. Figure out like how you can get more rankings, figure out the little microcosm of SEO within that store until you stop seeing results, and then try to figure out a different channel.
Yeah, I agree. And I haven't, so I looked at all that stuff. I did a bunch of information gathering when I first made the listing, but I haven't done that since. So now that I know more about the problem and what questions people ask and stuff, that's another thing that I can talk about like a little bit, is that I can now make better frequently asked questions because people are actually asking me questions. Like one person asked basically about the privacy settings that are possible with the stuff. Also trying to make sure that like website visitors can't see other website visitors' chats, which is not something I would have thought to highlight. But yes, it is private. So
what do they think we are, amateurs? We just have one global chat for the entire website.
I think that's what he thought. So I have a list of other frequently asked questions, and that also leads to like more SEO driven content for these very high intent keywords based on my Google Ads experience. The more like very focused searches I can get, the better, because I bet a lot of the traffic I'm seeing is for like live chat rooms, which is not what I am. So yeah.
Cool. Sounds like you're doing the marketing thing. And it's frustrating for me that like you don't get immediate results. Like when I code a feature, it's like, okay, the feature doesn't exist. When I code it, oh, it exists now. I can use it. Done. Like the immediate dopamine hit. But everything in marketing is like, okay, you sit it and you let it bake for weeks, and then we see what happens. And we're getting a totally different kind of traffic than we actually want. Let's change that. And okay, we have to reset that and wait another few weeks. So yeah, I think you're doing the thing.
Doing the thing.
Cool.
How about you?
So in those marketing days, that was the first 2 bombs. Bought you a Google ad, and that was good. Made $100 an hour.
Nice.
Not bad. Yeah. And I also installed tracking, which is something I've been needing to do for a while. I installed Segmetrics. And in installing Segmetrics, so I did that on the legacy Rails site, and installation on the Rails site was buttery smooth. It just included a line of JavaScript before the head, and don't have to do anything, and now data's rolling in. And I'm not sure from the Segmetrics documentation how to implement it on a Firebase like Next.js React-ish app, where I'm not loading a new JavaScript file on every single page load. So I need to message Keith and ask him about that. For right now, it's collecting useful data on the existing site, but for moving forward, I need it to do different tracking. But something that did work really well for that is Firebase Analytics, which was my fallback option. Not quite as good, like dedicated SaaS tracking that I need, but I think I'll be able to pull teeth to get the data that I need out of it. So there is tracking in place for both the legacy site and the new one. And the tracking for the legacy site is on Segmetrics, which should be giving me a lot better data. So that feels good. And then the other thing that I did in the 3 hours and 50 minutes that I spent last week on marketing is added some content to the You Send It SEO page. You Send It is the previous name for Hightail, and then Hightail has also changed the name. It's kind of confusing. And that is a page that I started ranking really well for with just minimal content. And so Jonathan Zacks was like, hey, beef this up and this would be better. So I did. I added like 2 or 3 more paragraphs about the history of You Send It and what File Inbox does and why that might be better for you if you're looking for a dedicated file sending tool. And,
you also did something interesting on that page, which is worth pointing out, which is the Google metadata stuff, right? You added Google metadata so that your questions could pop up as the like questions that Google highlights.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, I didn't realize. So this was an idea from Jonathan Zacks. I keep using his full name. Jonathan? I don't know. That sounds strange. I've always called him Jonathan Zacks. It goes by Jay-Z. And,
Jay-Z.
Like the letters Jay-Z, not J-A-Y.
Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah. That was something he pointed out is like, yeah, the way that you can tell Google that you have a really punchy question and answer, and then it can show up in that short listing, or it can show up like if you ask Google Assistant or something. There's special metadata you can include in elements, and then Google knows the answers to your question. So yeah, added that. Didn't even know that was a thing. And there's a whole bunch of other metadata like that. Like if you have an event with a time and a location, you can tag that in Google, and then Google like shows it as a local event, I think, if you Google for it. And if it's an article, and if it's a tutorial, and there's all kinds of special metadata that you can give to Google a recipe, which I think is how Google gets, I think that's how you can ask the Google Assistant for a recipe and it tells you step by step. It's because people have written a website where they tagged with metadata, like exactly what the steps are and what the ingredients are and those sorts of things. So that's cool. That's I've been on the internet a long time and didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, so that's all marketing, and I'm not loving it, but I would love it a lot more if like I felt like I really had a handle on something and I could really like, oh, this machine just needs to be tuned a little bit and it's already making a lot of money, and let me do an A/B test and it's making even more money now. I'm still just feel like I'm just grinding and like putting work in and not quite seeing results.
Well, I mean, just like you told me, I mean, marketing takes a long time to see results usually. And it's why, as developers, we don't like it, I think. So that's why I think your experiment with Tuesdays and Thursdays is great, because it forces you to actually do this stuff.
Yes.
And even So you said you cheated by doing my marketing on Tuesday, which is true. You also cheated a little by doing developing for marketing the other times.
Yeah, like adding trackers. Yeah, for sure.
But that's okay. I mean, that's pushing your marketing stuff forward. So I think that's okay too. So there are fun ways you can do marketing, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. And then I kind of also cheated. Well, not really. Doing marketing in my development time. So did a bunch of development stuff of like bug fixes, and oh my gosh, I don't think I talked about this last time, but I had this pernicious error where oh my gosh, it was specifically what was the problem?
It's large file uploads, right?
When I was transferring files from the Google Cloud Storage bucket to Dropbox. I've talked about this several times, but I had this whole scheme of like, I'll just download it to disk and then I'll upload it in chunks. And that didn't work because I didn't realize the disk was a virtualized disk that was in RAM. So that was out the window. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll just download it in chunks in memory, a chunk at a time, and then I'll upload those in chunks at a time to Dropbox. And I thought that was going to work, but then like the garbage collector wasn't quite collecting garbage in the way that I thought it should. And so every once in a while, the memory would just bump up by like 100 megabytes at a time, even though my chunks are only 30 megabytes. And then eventually it would run out of RAM, and then the serverless function would crash. And I tried all sorts of different things of like, can I do active memory management? Or can I tell the garbage collector explicitly to empty garbage, which is a thing you can do in Node. And I did not know that, but it takes like a second to go through and garbage collect. It's a really expensive process. But I found myself craving like, okay, can I write this in a different language that like I can do manual memory management on, or can I store the data in an object and then use the delete keyword on that object to try to free the memory? Nothing was working. Finally, the solution I landed on was I download the chunk to disk, but just the chunk, just the 30 megabyte chunk. And then I upload the chunk, like reading it from storage, and then I delete it from the file system. And that worked. that it's like a way to sort of cheat of like, I have this one segment of memory that I'm kind of treating like it's on the file system. And I guess because of the way that the function is handling that memory, it actually does free that memory when it's supposed to. And I'm like explicitly calling fs.delete on it. So man, that was really hard. And now I've got it figured out. And like for all my subsequent integrations where I'm going to have the same problem, I have a scheme now where like, okay, as long as I can figure out how to upload things in chunks to whatever the cloud storage thing is, everything else can basically stay the same. And I can reuse my hours and hours of trying to fight this thing to work. But now it's serverless. And so now I can just do it 100 million times and it'll just work. So that feels good.
Yeah, that's nice. I think I said this last time, or maybe just you, but this is a perfect example of the Joel Splosky like leaky abstraction thing, which is like, all you have to do is transfer this file, but now you have to worry about garbage collecting and how Google Cloud actually stores the file, and that is virtual RAM and whatever, or virtual disk. I mean, so yeah, like it's, and I actually think I said this last time too, but it's building your moat, right? Yeah, now you've done it, so. The next person that comes along will have to do all that work also, and it will be harder for them.
Yes. Anytime someone in the future is like, I could just build my own file uploading thing, I am just going to laugh. Like, you have fun.
Right.
Yep. Here's my card for when you give up. You should, like, I legitimately believe now that if anyone's building a file upload feature, they should figure out a way to use File Inbox instead. Because, oh my gosh, it's so much more complicated than I thought it would be. And then, every one of these things, because I'm just narrow, laser focused on this one problem, I can build in all these other things. Like this problem I'm working on now is that to download the file from Google Cloud Storage with a custom name, you need to set a special header called the content intent or something. What was that called? Content. Oh, hold on. I want to actually say what this thing actually is. The content disposition. You set a content disposition header, and that's what tells the file to download with a special name, so you can have a custom file name. But you can't do that if it's on a different domain name, and you can't make the cloud bucket be on the same domain name, I don't think. And so you have to sign the URL, but to sign the URL, that has to have in server side. So it's just like, it's a tiny little detail. Like, you need custom file names. You need to be able to like change what the file name is when you download it. But it's really complicated. It's going to take me like a day to figure out how to do this one little thing. But then, for all of eternity, I've figured out this problem of how to get custom file names, and that's just one extra little brick of like, here's why my file uploading thing is a little bit better. And I've set up like security in a way that makes sense. So yeah, I'm very proud of this product. I put a lot of work into it. It's nice.
Yeah,
and working on it technically is so much more fun than doing marketing. But
yeah,
this is giving me fuel now to do marketing, I guess, that I believe in the product.
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons I told you that should be a paid feature. File renaming is like, it's hard to do, so people who implement free file sending features aren't going to, and so that should be a paid feature. Yeah.
Excellent transition into file sending. So Sarah walked into my office on Friday in the morning and was like, hey, I'm trying to send this file through this person I'm doing consulting with. So she has a client who has a client, and that client needed files sent to them. And she asked her client, like, how do you want me to send these files? And they said, just use WeTransfer. And she went to WeTransfer.com and saw this big banner on top that said, WeTransfer is down. It's not working right now. Yeah. So she came to my office and was like, hey, WeTransfer's down. Can I use File Inbox to send files? And I was like, no, but WeTransfer's down? What? And then my brain just exploded. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could like buy a Google ad that's WeTransfer's down, or like, is WeTransfer down for the phrase, and then I could siphon off a bunch of their customers. But the feature isn't built yet, and I think it's going to take me like 2 weeks, but maybe I can get it done quickly. And I don't know, maybe they'll continue having outages over the next few days, so it'll be okay. And this feature that I thought would take 2 weeks took me a day. I think I finished it. Oh, I can actually pull up the information right now. It was on Friday.
5 hours and 11 minutes.
5 hours, 11 minutes, and 27 seconds. That's exactly right. I forgot I tweeted about it. And it was done. And like, now you can send files on File Inbox. And I can't believe I waited so long to do this, because the traffic for sending files is so much higher than the traffic for receiving files. And there's still some rough edges. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit of things, like being able to change the file name after you've uploaded it. And I agree that should be a paid feature. So this leads me to my main question in this space, which is like, my original intent in building file sending is that is a technology as marketing thing, that like, this is a free service that then whoever receives the file, that's probably going to be my real customer. And the person who receives the file, I can be marketing to them saying like, hey, don't you hate it that you have to like click on each individual file and then you have to upload it to where it needs to go? Wouldn't it be great if files could just automatically go where they need to go based on the sender and information? Here's a little video, and click here and you can make a file upload page, and you'll get that, and all these other things too. However, in researching features for doing the file sending, that's its own separate product. Like, there are people like Sarah who are trying to send files who have needs like having a custom branded download page once they send the thing, or like wanting to change the link, or wanting to change the file names, or including extra information on the page, or password protecting or encrypting the files when they send them. And those sorts of services, so that would be like a much more direct WeTransfer competitor. And those sorts of services, I've seen prices in the range of like $5 to $30 a month just for that sending thing. And I don't know how to think about this, because like, is this a separate product? Should I make this free and just make it really good, and then that's increasing the people coming for the file receiving? Should I have like one plan where you can send and receive files on File Inbox? How would you be thinking about this?
Yeah, so I definitely see like any agency that produces a digital product could absolutely use a sending file feature, especially if it was custom branded, stuff like that. But I guess I don't know enough about the file transfer space to really know how big that is and how easy it is to capture or anything. So I think my advice was, and this is coming from me not knowing much about the file sending space, is you have your file sending feature basically done, right? Mm-hmm. And so get some traffic to it, see what kind of files people send, see if anyone clicks through to you're going to put a thing in the footer that's like, if you receive a lot of files, then go here, see if anyone clicks through that, see how much, do people reuse things, stuff like that. So try to put analytics around what people actually do with your file sending feature, and then go from there. So that was my advice, not knowing much about the file sending space.
That's a good way to go forward. Yeah. And I can just like buy a Google ad for now I can buy a Google ad for like send files or which has a ton of traffic.
Because you know how to do it, because you did it for me.
Because I know how to do it.
That's right.
That doesn't mean I want to do it, but I do know how to do it. Yeah,
I'll do it for you for $100. How about that? Just deal. I'm just kidding. I don't want to do it. That's why I paid you.
Okay. I already said deal, Chris. No take backs. Okay, it's fine. I can do it. Yeah, okay, that's good advice. And now I have tracking in place, right? So I can see like what the behavior of these people are. Cool. Okay. So I feel like this is a fallacy and I don't have to do this, but the way that files are currently downloaded, I don't like, because it's downloading to memory. So like it would be a little bit buggy if people used it right now. And I don't think that's a legitimate reason not to buy a Google ad for it.
When you say would be a little buggy, what do you mean?
I don't know currently what would happen if someone tried to download a total amount of files that were over 500 megabytes. I think the browser window might crash. And if I spend like another 2 palms on it, I would feel really confident that people could download files of infinite size and it would still work.
Okay. I mean, so let's see. Today is Monday. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Yeah. Tomorrow's your marketing palm. Day.
Yeah.
Can you do 2 more palms today? And if it doesn't work, then change your 10 gigabyte limit to 500 megabytes and then buy an ad anyway.
And then I could buy the Google ad for it tomorrow. I could. And another point I want to cover today is I have this consulting job. So I want the rest of the day to be working on a consulting job.
Yeah.
But I think that's the push I needed to just like, I'm just going to buy the ad because I'm just going to buy the ad.
Change your wording from 10 gigs to 500 megs and buy the ad.
I'll change the wording to 500 megs and then I'll just buy the ad. Yeah. Okay. And then I'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah. Good. Cool. All right. Yeah. And then I'll figure it out, right? If it's a bunch of people who are sending files to like sign printers, okay, then I should focus on it being a loss leader just for the to get more of those receiving customers. And if it's a bunch of people like Sarah who are using this to send like marketing documents and they're asking me for features like encrypting it or changing the file name or custom branding, then I could pivot in that direction. But yeah, I'm going to learn a lot just from getting more traffic to it and seeing what happens. Okay. Yeah, that feels good. Cool. Thank you. Next point. Smooth transition. I officially have this consulting job. I haven't checked if I can say who the client is, but it's a very cool client. Has a lot of YouTube followers. Cool. Feels pretty good. I broke down the tasks that I think, so it's just like the initial thing of the to-dos that I think will be all the to-dos to finish the project. So I'm sure it'll expand in complexity and there's things I'm not even thinking of now, and like things that I think are a single check are actually going to be 5 checks. But in writing down all the ones I could possibly think of at the beginning of the project, it was 16 to-dos, and I'm getting paid a little over $5,000. So it's kind of cool mental framing that every checkbox I check off is $300. That feels pretty cool. And one of them is like, create a project on Supabase. So after I create the project, done, project's created, check. Just spent $300. That's going to feel pretty cool.
Nice. I was going to ask if one of them was like build Facebook. Like you see that sometimes.
The very last check is just like do the entire project.
Right.
Yeah. So I had the thought in doing this. I was talking with my brother-in-law about like gearing up to start a family and thinking more about income and making more money. And I was mostly talking about File Inbox and like this file sending feature. And then I was like, and I got this consulting job for $5,000. And I think it's probably going to take me like, 2 or 3 days. And he was like, hold on, you can make $5,000 in 2 or 3. Why aren't you just doing that? What if you just do like 5 of those in a month? And I was like, what if I just did 5 of those in a month? Because if I did like 4 of them in a month for $5,000, that's $20,000. And that's like my goal of income to get File Inbox to. And I think you've done a lot more consulting than me. You're like in this career pivot from doing more of the web development consulting to more AI stuff. What am I trying to ask?
How to get 4 of these a month?
What am I not thinking of in like just scaling this up to be doing more per month? Like of course I need to be doing more inbound stuff, which is I think we talked about last time, like doing a tweet and messaging my email list to see if anyone would like work done. But does it seem feasible that I could be doing 4 of these in a month? Like, what am I not thinking of? Because that seems totally doable right now.
Yeah. So first of all, consulting is great. You can make a lot of money at it. So yeah, if you want to make more money, consulting is great. Things you are not thinking of are, you got this one because you knew this person. You like already had a relationship, and you could probably get a few more, maybe 4 more, right? And so your first month, maybe you can get 4 through your existing network, and you will feel great. And then the next month, now what? And that's the big question with consulting: is you go through your network, and then what? And so you need kind of I have not seen an individual get something like $4,000 or $5,000 projects a month for a long period of time. I've seen agencies do that, but on an agency, you have like a dedicated person who reaches out to people, talking about the things they can do. Or the other way you could do it is if you frame yourself as the X person. So like, if you frame yourself as the file sending person, and then once again, do a lot of reaching out, then that's where you could maybe get like sort of these smaller projects. Like if you come up with a sort of project that a lot of companies need to do for about $5,000, and you sort of sell that project, that's how I could see doing that. Otherwise, the best, like the most success I've seen is more traditional consulting, which is either hours for dollars, which you probably don't want to do, or projects for dollars, but they're going to be way more variable. Some will be, $30K for 2 months. Some will be, $1,000. Yeah. So that's kind of where what my mind goes to, is that it's going to be hard to replicate over a long period of time, this type of project, I think.
Okay. That makes sense. And the next step of that, I think, is just start reaching out to my own network and see, I think for sure I'd like to be doing more of these. And if I could be doing 4 a month for a couple months just within my own network, then fantastic. And then I guess it's the same problem with File Inbox, right? Like, how do I do that? How do I do the marketing for this then?
Yeah. I guess my main point is it will be way easier, like 10 times easier to get one 50K project than it would be to get 10 5K projects. Yeah.
Or a job. I could just get a job.
Well,
right?
That's the extreme case. Yes.
That's the pinnacle of ease and amount of money.
Yes.
What are we doing? Why don't we just get jobs? Cool. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's a good next step.
Yeah. But also, don't take my word for it. Like I did this and I watched a lot of other people doing it, but you have a totally different skill set with a totally different network. Maybe it's way easier. I have no idea. Okay. So what I'm saying is that was my experience, but I have no idea what your experience will be. Yeah.
I love the idea of positioning myself as like the file sending guy, because then I imagine that's the Rob Walling stair-step approach, right? You start off with doing consulting for the thing, and then you like write an info product about it, and then you make a product for it. And if I'm immersing myself, if I'm walking back down the stairs to like help people, I think I might get a better idea of what people need, and then okay. Yeah.
Which the stair-step approach is great, but it is kind of funny that you can walk down the stairs and make more money. Like that's my experience for sure. So yeah, if you want to make some more money, you can walk down the stairs, no problem.
Cool. Yeah. Just a little dance.
Yeah.
Tap dance down the stairs, and then back up the stairs. Cool. Okay. Next step of that, I think, is to send out a tweet and hit my email list and be like, hey, I can do these things. Would you like work doing these things or something else? Hop on a call. Cool. 2 more things I would like to talk about. I am a little embarrassed it took me this long to do this. So I hired Rachel in January, and it's now September. And I have been sitting on an email backlog since the beginning of the year in my personal email. That's just like I had a whole bunch of starred emails that I needed to do something with. And I was mentally framing this as like, oh, this, like, none of this really Rachel can help with, and she would need access to my email, and she might need access to this other stuff to be able to do these. So I'll do these, and I'll just like send her ones that I need to do. And then I caved a few months ago and was like, you know what? Have access to my personal email. You've handled business stuff great. Like when we've built trust, this is fine. But she was just triaging my inbox. I just told her, like, if it looks important, star it. and if it's any type of newsletter, unsubscribe. If it has an unsubscribe button, unsubscribe from it. And last session that we had was on Tuesday or Wednesday. I had a whole bunch of time after the meeting. Our meetings are scheduled for half an hour. It usually just takes like 5 minutes, where she's like, yeah, I had a question on this one customer support email. Okay, anything else? And I'm like, no, that's good. And then we're done. And I was like, actually, you know what? Can you just watch me go through my email? And she was like, yeah, you pay me money. Like, what do you want? Right. Of course. And so I just start going through the email, and I'm just talking out loud of like, oh God, I don't know what to do with this one. And like, this one's an invoice that I should probably pay, but like the people might have forgotten about it, but I feel kind of scummy if I don't do it. You know what? I'm going to pay it. Actually, no. Can you please pay it? Do you have my credit card information? Here's my credit card information. Just pay this. And you already have access to my email, so I just made a new to-do, and like she watched me do it. And there were like 4 other emails like that I was just like, actually, you can do this. Like, can you please ask this person for a refund and keep following up? Or like, I'm trying to buy this banner ad, but I need to know the dimensions. Can you get this information from this person? And then tell me when it's at this stage that you have the information and you have the confirmation. And I got through like a third of my emails that I've been sitting on for months. So I think I'm going to make that a habit until like that inbox is totally down. And then I have this whole backlog of like personal to-do things that are in the category of like, I need to order new shirts, and I need to like return. I need to buy new cabinet handles from AliExpress. Of a particular size, because we ordered like 3 different ones in 3 different sizes, and then figured out, okay, we need this one size, so I need like 10 more of them in the size that we want. So I'm just going to go through the list and be like, okay, either I'm going to do this right now here in front of you, or it's going to get archived to later. There were a lot that were in the archive to later category that I just don't know what to do with yet. Or like, you can do it right now, and here's the information that you need to be able to do it. Do you have any questions? Okay, great, let's move on to the next one. So that feels like a massive productivity boost that like, I think that's a piece that I wish I had told myself at the beginning of hiring Rachel, which is just like, go through your to-do list with her for half an hour, everything you have to do, and like talk with her with it about like what you have to do. And in the worst case, all of them are things that you can do that you like get done, and you're just talking through it with her, and then you're going to do it, they're going to get done. But also, if there's anything she can help with, like it's the prime moment, like you're both in there together looking at the same list. And it's much easier in that moment to outsource stuff. So that felt really good. It felt like a massive administrative boost.
That's great. I have several thoughts. One is it's kind of a modified version of what we do in co-working, except you're paying her. Yeah.
Except so of course, I can tell her things to do.
So of course it's going to work because it works for co-working. So yeah, that's great. It's also like what personal growth looks like. Like you were afraid of it before, and now you're just like, just do it. I think that's great. Also, I think I mentioned this before, but like, as an executive assistant, I'm sure she does this for other clients. Like, she's probably totally used to going through personal, weird, random to-dos, and you're not. And so that's why you felt weird. I bet she doesn't feel weird at all. Like, that's her job.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, good. Great.
Yeah. Afterwards, she always says, happy to help. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you hired her for. So
that is what I hired her for. Yeah. Yeah. That's been great. And I feel like, especially with this now, I'm getting to learn how to use an assistant much more effectively. So we have a shared to-do list where I just put things in for her to do, and it's starting to get big. Like there's several recurring to-dos in there that I just don't have to think about anymore. That's really nice. And anytime I think of a thing, it goes in there. So at the end of our last session, I think there were like 20 things in our to-do list. And that's all stuff I don't want to do that like is very outsourceable, that now is freeing up more time, and the mental bandwidth is the biggest part of it. Yeah. Just like, I don't have to think about it anymore. It just gets done. I took a course by Ramit Sethi, the author of How to Teach You to Be Rich, that called My Great Assistant, I think, that talked about how he uses his assistant, and he just uses the heck out of his assistant. Like, it's amazing. He'll send her things like, I need you to return these shoes for me. And the shoes are like, whatever, $50 shoes, and his assistant gets paid like $80 an hour or something. Yeah. Or probably not that much, but then like to return the shoes, it has to go downstairs, and then a courier has to go and return them. And the net, you end up not making as much money as if you had just like thrown the shoes away. But he was like, something about me, I just got to return the shoes. And like, that's the path of least thought in it. Like, I want the shoes returned. I send a text to her saying, hey, can you return the shoes? She sends a text back that says, yes, of course. Drop them off with your doorman in your fancy Manhattan apartment, and it'll get taken care of. And then it's done. And then that mental bandwidth is freed. Because otherwise, like, man, how many things in this room right now do I like have a thing I need to do something with them with that, like, if I worked out the financial value, like, okay, there's a pair of shoes sitting right there where the sole of it has fallen off, and the to do with that is like, I need to figure out if there's a place that does shoe repair, and if so, how much they charge, and if that's worth it, or if I should just get a new pair of shoes. And like, I've walked by those shoes dozens of times, and every time just had the thought like, oh, there's a thing I need to do. And like, the cost of that mental bandwidth is enough to justify giving that off to Rachel of like, hey, can you figure this out? Here's my shoe size. Here are the shoes. Just tell me, here's the end result I want. I want a pair of shoes that fits, that has a sole in them. Figure out what to do, and let me know. And then I don't have to think about it. Merely freeing up the mental bandwidth is financially worth it. Because that's going to take her like, what, 20 minutes at most to figure that out and push it forward. And I think she gets paid like $30 an hour. So 20 divided by 60 times 30 is $10, and it's done. Like, of course. Yeah, I've cost myself much more than $10 in mental anguish already.
Yeah. Not to add another thing to your to-do list, but I think there's something called shoe goop, which you can glue a sole back onto a shoe, and it's specially made for shoes.
What if I don't have the sole anymore?
Then just throw them out.
Just throw them out? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I like the shoes though. Like, they look good. It's a really generic style of shoe.
Are they expensive shoes? Like, are they leather?
I got them for free. I was in a show and they had to buy me shoes.
Just throw them out.
I'll just throw them out. Okay. Yeah, they're kind of scuffed and all right. I'll just throw them out.
There you go.
I need replacement brown shoes though. That's my only pair of brown shoes. But I'll ask Rachel to look for brown shoes for me.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. One more thing I wanted to talk about. I finished the cabinet drawers, and
nice.
The first drawer, just cutting it. So like getting the wood and cutting it and getting the raw pieces of wood took me like 2 days because I had to figure out how a table saw worked and everything else. And then to join them together, I had to keep researching, like, I think I'm going to do a box joint, but I ended up not doing a box joint. I did a miter, and then several things were off and I had to redo it. So that took like another 2 or 3 days. And then actually gluing it took like another day, and fitting it and like getting it installed in the cabinet. So the whole process took like a week to do the first drawer. And then for drawers 2 and 3, including buying the material, took a day. Nice. And that feels really cool. That like I invested in this skill, and I am confident that I know what the right sort of joinery to do is, and I know all the little tricks of like, I need to measure the thing from the outside instead of the inside because it's the space remaining, not the space from the wood. That is not going to make sense to anyone else but me. I was stuck on this problem for like an hour of like, why is this not fitting? Because I had the bottom base of it, and it should have slotted in the sides based on how I like routed out a little pocket for it. But it like was too big, and I was just like, why isn't this? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm a ½ inch off, so I'll take a ½ inch off. But then it was like an inch too short, and I was like, how is that possible? And it was because I wasn't, instead of measuring the space that I cut away from it, I needed to measure the space of the wood that was remaining for the total maximum dimension of the drawer. I feel like I'm still explaining that poorly, but man, it was a lightning bolt moment of like, oh, I'm not stupid. I just was measuring the wrong thing. So I was able to streamline the process much better. And like, I love that feeling of competency, and I know what a drawer is now, and I can make a really good drawer. And if you can make a drawer, you can make a cabinet. If you can make a cabinet, you can make a whole kitchen. And I really like being in that space. So installed them. Sarah's super happy. The kitchen went from like having stuff all over the countertop to everything put away and the space being maximized in the drawer. And there are 3 future projects involving the table saw that I feel prepared for. And I like being able to make stuff.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. And yeah, I was going to say, it's not just that you now make drawers, it's that you have gone through this process. And so the next whatever you make is going to be a lot faster because of that. So yeah, that's awesome. It's like the first time I realized that a saw blade has width. You actually have to, it's like 1/8 of an inch wide or whatever. You make that mistake once on a piece of valuable wood and you don't make it again. Yep. So stuff like that. So any carpentry you do from now on will be better. So that's great. Good.
We've talked about this before, but it does feel eerily similar to coding, carpentry is a very technical skill that is potentially very dangerous, that like you got to be really precise, and there's all these errors hidden in complexity. Oh man, like the depth of the table saw changed while I was cutting a piece of wood. There's a little like rotating thing to change the depth of the blade, and I ran a whole bunch of boards through it, and the first 4 boards were perfect. It was a perfect fit, and then the second 4 I was like, something's off. It's not fitting the way it should. And I checked and rechecked, and like I checked that the piece of board that should have been fitting in it, like it fit in the first 4 boards but not the second 4. And the problem ended up being that as I was cutting the boards with it's called a dado blade. It's a really thick blade that can cut like you can write out a whole segment of a board at a time, really wide. That blade was plunging into the table as I was cutting, because the little rotatey thing was just like vibrating down and moving itself down. So now I know that like as I'm cutting things, I need to note like, okay, it's at this angle, the little handle. So I need to check that every time I run a board through, that the angle hasn't changed. Yeah. And that's one of probably 1,000 little details like that just in doing this and figuring it out. Now going forward, I'm going to be able to do it much more consistently and flawlessly. And I'm doing the exact same thing with file uploads and transfers. Like there's just a million little tiny like, oh, you get the file system is actually in memory and not actually in disk. And the chunks those can't live in memory because the memory management, the garbage collection doesn't quite work how you think it's going to work. And I like that process. Like it's kind of frustrating in the moment, but then you get it and it's like, I solved it. now I know how to do this thing for any other time I'm doing this project. So yeah, I like it. I can see why people go from programming to carpentry.
Yep. It's also why I like photography. I like the pictures that come out of it, but like when you really understand your camera and you understand what every single dial does, and you can kind of do it almost blindfolded like that, that's a neat feeling. And yeah, so that's why I like that too.
That's cool. I could see getting into photography in the same sort of way. Yeah, also very technical, also very, you get a cool product at the end of it. I like it. Chris, I think that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.